My stepdaughter knew her mom was cheating on me and didn't tell me, so I'm disowning her and she can grow up fatherless again. I, 35M, met my soon-to-be ex-wife, 33F, during university 12 years ago. She already had a kid when she was 19, but the dad left as soon as she started uni. We were dating for 3 months before I met her daughter, Lisa. I remember seeing her family for the first time. I was nervous meeting her parents, but when I saw a little girl beside her mom, I was confused. I asked her if that was her little sister or a cousin of hers, and her answer shocked me. When she told me that that's her daughter, I thought I misheard her or something. At first, I wanted to dump her for hiding something so crucial from me, but she kept begging for me to stay, and eventually, I relented. Soon enough, I started to fall in love with her daughter and wanted to be her father figure. Our bond grew stronger over the years, and in early 2019, before the pandemic hit, we got married. In late 2021, I adopted Lisa, and in early 2022, my wife gave birth to our son, Mark. After Mark was born, my wife made the choice to stay at home for the time being, and I was completely fine with that. Everything was going perfectly until a few months ago. I started noticing my wife spending increasingly more time with her friends. At the time, I didn't say anything, since, in my mind, being at home all day probably meant she needed her own space, and I didn't want to seem controlling. The thing that made me suspicious was her constant texting and leaving the room for calls. She never did that for anyone besides this one friend of hers. I asked her about it, but she gave me some vague answers about gossip. The moment that took it too far, though, was when I came home last week and saw her outside talking on the phone. This wasn't out of the ordinary, but I remember seeing my son on the floor, crying alone. I was pissed at my wife for just leaving him alone in the house, but when I went to pick him up and smelled the horrible stench coming from him, I was beyond furious. His diaper seemed like it hadn't been changed since that morning. I quickly changed his diaper and rushed outside, and she was still talking on the phone. I snatched her phone from her hand and bolted back inside. She tried following me, but I locked her out. I had my suspicions about who was on the other end of the call, and when I heard a male voice calling out her name and asking who was there, I immediately knew what was going on. He ended the call as soon as he heard my voice. I then proceeded to screenshot as much of their chat as I could and then sent them to myself before deleting them on her phone. About 5 minutes later, she was still yelling and shouting at the front door, demanding to be let in, and I reluctantly opened it and was met with a smack in the face. As soon as she realized what she had just done, she apologized profusely, started crying, and tried to hug me. I pushed her away and told her to meet me at the dining table. I told Lisa to quickly take care of the baby so her mom and I could have a quick chat. I kept it simple. I told her this was her only chance to even have a sliver of a chance of getting me back. If she messed up this talk, it was over on the spot, no lies, nothing. She kept on trying to apologize and to say it wasn't that serious. I reminded her that she not only messed me over, but she also could have easily done serious harm to our son by leaving him alone in the house like that. I then simply asked who, for how long, and did they smash. She replied with her ex-boss, Daniel, 6 months, and she didn't answer the last one, so I kept reminding her that this was her last chance. She then simply nodded. I then asked her if they used protection. To this, she started crying and begging me for forgiveness. She said she would block him then and there, would never contact him again, and that I could smash with any woman I want from now on, blah blah blah. I guess Lisa heard the commotion and came downstairs. I told her to go back up, but she just walked to my wife and asked her if I knew about Daniel. Up to this point, I was calm, but upon hearing this, I swear even I started tearing up. I asked Lisa if she knew all along, and she said yes. At this point, I'm full on crying, and I asked her why she didn't tell me. She responded with, because unlike you, Daniel buys me the things I want without having to beg. I then asked her how she could possibly do this to her dad. She responded with the "you're not my real dad" crap. My wife screamed at her upon hearing what she said. At that point, I couldn't bear any of this anymore. I just grabbed my son and got into the car. My son and I are currently staying at my parents' house. I've basically been drinking myself to sleep every day. Thanks to the saint of a mother I have, my son is being taken care of right now. I'm beyond hurt. I've canceled my ex-daughter's private school tuition, all her extracurricular activities, and I've contacted a divorce lawyer. He's going to serve my wife this Friday. My wife and Lisa have been blowing up my phone nonstop with apologies. I simply responded with, "Get a lawyer and tell that ungrateful thing of yours to start calling Daniel her dad." I'm disowning her, and then I blocked my wife. I didn't respond to Lisa, I just simply blocked her. I guess my wife told our friends what she and Lisa did, and now they have been texting me nonstop. They understand how I feel but believe I'm going too far by divorcing my wife without hearing her out. They also keep telling me that disowning Lisa is definitely going too far and that she's only a kid and didn't understand what she was doing. I just can't get over the things she told me. I've worked so incredibly hard to give my wife and daughter luxuries I could have only dreamed of as a kid, and this is how I get paid back? Lisa is 13 years old and is old enough to understand that hiding her mom's affair is bad and definitely purposely used those words to hurt me. Honestly, I am feeling a little delusional, that maybe a few family counseling sessions later, and we can go back to living the life I once considered a fairy tale. I'm beyond destroyed by this whole situation. A part of me just wants to see them burn in hell, but the other part of me believes there is still hope. Am I really going too far? Is there any way to salvage this? Update 1. First of all, I just want to thank you all for the support you've shown me. This past week has been the hardest period of my life. Seeing the love you shared with the woman you considered your partner for life just hit me worse than anything else. You'll be glad to hear that I've put an end to the drinking, at least for now. It was tough, but seeing how my life was basically falling apart due to my constant drinking really was a wake-up call for me. As someone kindly suggested, I asked my mom to throw out all the booze in her house. The first couple of days were tough, with me being more depressed than ever, but I'm doing much better now. As for my wife, I've had a brief conversation with her, and I have halted all divorce proceedings for the time being. There is still a lot to navigate and a ton of logistics involved, and my decision for divorce seemed a bit in the heat of the moment. I'm not saying that I'm going back to her, I'm just saying I need to reevaluate everything again. What she did was beyond hurtful and irresponsible, and if I were to get back with her, she has to do a lot to make up for this mess. I have removed half of the money from our joint account and have stopped paying the lease on my wife's car. I asked her the following questions. Has she been in contact with Daniel since our falling out? She said she has completely cut off contact with her ex-boss and is willing to do anything to make our marriage work. Why did she go to him in the first place? She said she honestly doesn't know. She met him at a get-together her old company held, and in her words, they just clicked. They started hanging out as friends, and soon things grew out of hand, and she started bringing him over to the house when I was at work. Did she have feelings for him while they worked together? She said she found him cute but left it at that. They never did anything or said anything outside of work. I then started asking her questions about our daughter Lisa. Some of you guys rightly pointed out that she probably poisoned her against me. Why did she bring Daniel around our daughter? Lisa once caught them making out on the couch, and when she threatened to tell me, they quickly shut her up with gifts and a new phone. Soon enough, Lisa actually started to like having Daniel around because of the gifts. Did she badmouth me to Lisa? To this, she just went silent and started crying. I then pressed a bit more, and she finally blurted out that she started telling Lisa that Daniel was her biological dad. To be honest, after this, I just started crying and hung up. I did see a change in my daughter around the same time, but I just chalked it up to her being a teenager. Hearing the real reason just broke my heart even more. I also want to thank you guys for telling me that it wasn't right to put all the blame on my 13-year-old daughter. I wasn't thinking straight at the time, and when I started sobering up, I did sort of realize the mistake I made. I have unblocked my daughter and have been texting with her since yesterday. She has apologized to me, and it seems like my wife, in desperation to get me back, has confessed the truth to my daughter. My daughter told me that she has stopped talking with her mother since she confessed. I apologized to her for the comments I made about disowning her, and we have planned to meet up tomorrow at the local park. I again just want to sincerely thank you guys for the support and the advice. Honestly, I couldn't have navigated this mess alone while being intoxicated. Only God knows what would have happened if I didn't reach out. I also want to apologize for the drunken rant I went on in the comments. I'm beyond embarrassed at the things I said. Again, thank you all for the support and wish you all a wonderful weekend. Edit. I forgot to mention the DNA testing on my son. I do acknowledge it being a possibility, but neither am I mentally in a place to be able to cope with the stress of something like that, nor am I ready to face the reality that I might look at him differently if the test turns out negative. I'll do it eventually, but not now during this mess.